2016 was a great year for music, and it's safe to say that everybody on the internet agrees. But if you ask me which album stood out most in that year, I would have to say Chance the Rapper's Coloring Book. An album so special that it allowed Chance the Rapper to win a Grammy as an unsigned artist, which had never happened before. The album speaks to his unique energy, his sound, his originality when it comes to music, and it showcases everything that makes Chance the Rapper special. And what I find most interesting is the journey that Chance the Rapper took in the lead up to this album. Because in some ways, the journey to make Coloring Book an album is one of the most perfect rap stories of all time. The story really begins back in Chicago after Chance the Rapper gets suspended for smoking weed with his friends. This suspension would set off a chain of events that would lead to the release of Chance's debut mixtape, 10 Day.
Heads bowed, eyes shut, time to play 7-Up. Heads bowed, hands clapped.
Throughout the mixtape, we see him expand on the suspension and how that affected him. But the album really isn't about the suspension itself, it's more so about Chance the Rapper. With a lot of the tracks just expanding on who Chance the Rapper is or who Chance the Rapper was as a kid. Because of this, most of the beats on the tape laying on the upbeat part of it all, which really adds to that childish feel or nostalgic feel that Chance the Rapper goes for on the mixtape. Shout out to Prom Night, by the way, because that's one of those songs that really got me into Chance the Rapper.
Been there, done that. They see my little 10-day tape.
I will say though, on 10 Day, the beats were cool, but they mainly relied on a style of producing that wasn't bad, but that style usually doesn't sound anything better than good. But I will say, this style of production would change with Chance the Rapper's next mixtape in acid rap. From the first seconds of the project, Chance the Rapper makes it clear that acid rap was going to be a different experience to the one in 10 Day. Although the 10 Day tape was good, not a lot of people really listened to it outside of the locals, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because Chance the Rapper is an independent artist. However, you obviously want to reach for something higher than that. And with acid rap, Chance the Rapper would achieve just that.
Bang, bang, yelling fuck Fox News.
Especially with songs like Cocoa Butter Kisses. The tape has gone on to define who Chance the Rapper is as an artist. In my opinion, this tape is one of the greatest hip-hop mixtapes of all time, and not a lot of people talk about that, but it is, which is a big reason why people were excited to see what was next for Chance the Rapper. Adding to the excitement, before his next mixtape, Chance the Rapper would go on an insane run of features and collaborations, whether that was alongside Action Bronson on Baby Blue,
I hope you get a paper cut on your tongue from a razor and a paper cut.
Alongside Snake Hip,
Reinvent the wheel just to fall asleep at it.
or if it meant basically joining Dunny Trumpet and the Social Trumpets on Surf. Because that project was basically a collaborative album with Chance the Rapper and the group, because Chance the Rapper would appear on many of the tracks on the album.
Fix those heads, and the disc goes flop, but the track don't skip, and the words don't jumble.
Really cementing himself, his energy, and all that type of stuff that makes Chance the Rapper Chance the Rapper.
Black and I'm blind as a bat. Cardboard cut out sharp.
However, it was at the beginning of 2016 that Chance the Rapper would take the music world by storm. Specifically, I'm talking about his feature on Kanye West's Ultralight Beam.
Come for you, I will shield your name. I will.
This was the first song on Kanye's Life of Pablo, and it sounded nothing like hip-hop at the time.
Trying to snap photos of family. My daughter look just like Sia. You can't see her.
And a lot of people walked away saying that Chance the Rapper's feature on Ultralight Beam was one of the best of the decade. The spotlight was on Chance the Rapper, and Chance the Rapper did not disappoint. And with all of that being said, and all of this excitement that was had for Chance the Rapper, we can talk about Coloring Book.
We back. And we back. And we back.
This was the moment that Chance broke through the glass ceiling and became something bigger than what he was supposed to be. He had artists all across the spectrum of hip-hop, from someone like Saba to a Kanye West and a Lil Wayne. The project felt like a celebration of the underdog finally getting his time to shine in the spotlight of hip-hop.
You do it, talk. I ain't got shit to say.
Now, you may be wondering what made Coloring Book in particular so special, but I want you to look at a bunch of album covers from 2016 and take note of the colorway of all of these albums being dull or black and white, focusing on the darker colors, and then take that in comparison to the bright pink of Coloring Book. And although yes, these are just album covers, the sound of those albums kind of reflect the album cover in a way, because 2016 was a darker year for music. Everybody was doing that weekend type of thing, which isn't bad, but you know, it's on the darker side, the moodier side. And then came Chance the Rapper with his energy and his
To the same damn ad lib. Oh, wait.
you know, it was unique and it was full of energy. And you get that sense of energy from the first track on the album.
If I die, I'll probably cry at my own service.
Looking back, Chance the Rapper knew how to set a theme with like the opening track of an album. Anyways, a lot of the songs are inspirational and motivational, especially like when you get to a No Problem, right? Because like the whole thing about that track is I don't need a label. I'm doing this by myself. But also the inspiration and motivation that I get from this album happens in other songs, because the album is surprisingly focused on making the listener feel like things are going to get better.
Very special.
Which is something that you don't really hear on many albums. Like the only album I can think of that kind of does this is Kids See Ghosts, but Chance the Rapper was also doing that throughout the album, specifically on something like the outro version of Blessings. Because usually in a feel-good song, the artist is talking about himself and his triumph, but in a song like this, it's speaking to the listener, as you are the person being addressed. Are you ready?
You ready, big fella?
And I think that is extremely valuable to this album. Personally, I think that the album peaks with Same Drugs,
We don't do the same drugs no more.
which in my opinion has shown how much Chance the Rapper grew up from his 10-day tape all the way to Coloring Book. Personally, this is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Don't you miss the days, stranger?
This is the first Chance the Rapper song that I remember hearing back in 8th grade. I was listening to it and just getting emotional at the imagery and the message of that song. And now that I'm older, looking back at it, you know, you got these two characters that aren't necessarily in the wrong. It's just two people that are afraid of growing up or go about growing up in different ways.
You must have lost your marbles. You always were so forgetful.
And with time, that naturally causes them to drift apart, which is sad, but it's also completely normal.
Don't forget the happy thoughts. All you need is happy thoughts.
I know a lot of people, when this happens, they get really sad and they start blaming themselves and start to wonder where everything went wrong. But you shouldn't blame yourself, you know. That's just the nature of humans. Real talk. I don't even know why. This is crazy.
When did you start to forget how to fly?
But those are the gems that Coloring Book has. That's what makes it stand out in my mind when we're talking about 2016 albums. Because we often talk about a Starboy or a Blonde or some of the albums made by the superstars like Adele and Rihanna or Beyonce. But I ask you to please not overlook Chance the Rapper's Coloring Book. Because in my opinion, this is the perfect hip-hop coming-of-age story. I high-key forgot to record an outro, so shout out to y'all, of course. Y'all been going crazy. Shout out to me, of course, because it's 5 a.m. And shout out to Jay Dilla, because he's Jay Dilla.